Hey there guys, I'm Hello Japan, and welcome to the second episode of my E3 press conference response and overview videos. Last time we reviewed and kind of leaned in a bit of a favor of Microsoft this time around. I was actually impressed that they actually showed off games and didn't show off just technology that they'd been developing for so long. And granted, when you do develop new technology, such as the advanced Connect 2, basically, or the DVR functions or the recording capabilities of your new console, you do have to show it off. Especially when the system isn't even released yet, like the case was with the E3 of last year. But I'm glad this time they didn't do any of that. They just covered games, the stuff that we watch E3 for, and the stuff that gamers live for. So, I'm not going to give out grades for any of the conferences until I've seen all of them, and up at this point now, I have only seen 3 of them. I'm going to be including Nintendo's, even though Nintendo's is actually tomorrow. I believe it's noon tomorrow, Eastern Time. I'm not 100% sure, don't remember, but I have just come out, well, about an hour or so ago, a little under an hour ago, the Ubisoft press conference ended. It was okay. It wasn't too incredibly long or interesting, but it wasn't bad. But this episode is about EA and their event. They had quite a bit of games. A lot of which I didn't care too much for because it was a lot of sports games. But we will get to those when we get to those. So, what did they begin off the press conference with? They began off with Star Wars Battlefront. Not gameplay, just a tease. They showed some footage off of the developers' monitors, some AT-ATs walking around, some land speeders flying through the forests. Sad I didn't see any Ewoks in those shots, but we did see some nice shots of Hoth with some different ships flying around and that sort of thing. It was pretty cool to actually see a Star Wars game running in, I believe it would have been Frostbite 3. I think it was running in Frostbite 3. But like I said, granted, it was very early on. You could tell. They say that the game is going to be launching in 2015. I could see that. I mean, granted, we're only halfway through 2014, so we still have half a year of development. And if they say 2015, they could mean December of 2015. So that gives them another year and a half to work on the game. And I could see them. I could see them reasonably, within reason, releasing the game at that point. It did look far enough along to where they actually had, a lot of models set up, and it was just more so they had to make the game now. So I would be surprised if it was so late until next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like mid-2015, which I'm hoping for, because we need a good Star Wars game, and we need a new Battlefront, because the first 2 Battlefronts were awesome. Great staples of the, was it 2 generations ago now? Yeah, PS2 and Xbox days. Fantastic games, and if the game is anything like those 2, it's going to be amazing. Especially with, like I said, it running on Frostbite. Amazing engine. But then after that, they followed up with Dragon Age Inquisition. Now, as I mentioned over in the Microsoft press conference, they didn't show too much. They showed a trailer and a little bit of exposition about the trailer and that sort of thing. But they actually went into quite a bit more detail with their presentation of the game. You will be playing as a character called the Inquisitor, of all things. Kind of generic-y name. I mean, it's kind of goes along with it, but it's kind of a dumb name in my opinion. But the whole thing is you have an Inquisition going, and I don't know. Are you? And that maybe it's because I haven't played either one of the Dragon Age games up to this point. I have both of them, but I have not played them. Are you like taking out the monsters that are invading your world, or is it like, because Inquisition implies that you're on a mission to destroy something, and I'm assuming that you're on a mission to destroy these monsters, because I've looked at enough of the Dragon Age games to understand that these monsters have invaded from another dimension, like a hellish dimension or something, and are terrorizing the world. And I don't know if that storyline was resolved at all in the previous 2 games, but it seems like it's either a continuation of that into a new game, or this might actually be a completely new storyline with similar game elements, and that's why it is an Inquisition. I'm not too incredibly certain on that, but the game overall does look very, very, very good. One thing I do like is that you are given the option to either play the game as a tactical RPG, like you could in the first game, or which was the main source of gameplay in the first game, where you were able to pause the game, get an overhead camera, view your environment, view the enemies around you, strategize a little bit, tell your I guess squad mates, I don't know a good word to use, your other characters, to tell them what to do, and plan out. Or you could take the approach that the second game had, which was traditional action RPG combat, which personally I enjoy more because I'm not very good at strategy. I just go in there and just kill stuff. That's always been my way of gaming, and I like that it gives you the option, and I hope that they do a good job with allowing you to pick and just run with what you get, because if you are more of a action gamer like myself, it would be really cool to see, or to allow you to give you skills that would apply to that throughout the course of the game, instead of like, oh well, you're choosing the action course of combat, but here's some skills that apply to the tactical thing, which would be kind of pointless to you, because if you don't use the tactical combat style, then what's the point of getting those abilities? But granted, like I said, the game doesn't come out for a little while now. The game is scheduled for a release of October 7th, 2014, which to me seems really soon. Maybe it's because I haven't been paying attention to the game at all, and maybe that's why all of a sudden it's like, boom, the game's here and it's going to be out soon. Maybe that's why. And that is most likely the reason. I just hadn't been paying attention to the game, and now it's here. But it's pretty cool. The bit of gameplay they did show after the trailer, because they showed a pretty cool trailer and it was fun and whatever. But the gameplay they showed off that both of the combat systems, the tactical and the action-oriented combat system, they're fighting what they called a high dragon, which is apparently the most difficult or rare dragon you can find in the game. It's the I don't know if they've shown it in any of the other Dragon Age games before, but I know when they first announced this game back in 2012. They announced it in 2012. I think it was 2 years ago now they announced it. It was either 2 years ago or last year, I don't remember. But besides that, it was the dragon that had the really, really big monstrous horns, and that's the dragon that they fought here. The combat looked very fluid. I was very impressed with it. I wasn't expecting to be as impressed with it as I was. Am I going to get it? Maybe, maybe not. If I do get it, it will be on PC, definitely, because I have the first one and second one both on PC. Like I said, I did play a fair bit of the first one. Actually, no, a fair bit of the second one, rather. And I played probably like 20 minutes of the first one, just because I turned it on one day and I was like, I want to play this. That's all I did. I did enjoy the second one, like I said, the little bit that I did play of it. And the first one I kind of got bored with and I just turned off. So hopefully this game will, allow me to get into the series, because I do love Mass Effect. And that is one of the, at least one of the two modern IPs from BioWare that, I do enjoy. This Mass Effect and Dragon Age. And segueing into what they kind of announced and teased, there is a new Mass Effect on the way. Now, it doesn't have a name, just Mass Effect right now. It's not going to be a whole new reboot to the series. They said it will be a completely new story, completely new characters. There will be the same races. They did show off a Krogan in the new engine that they're using to make the game. I don't, if they do include Shepard in any capacity, it will just be Shepard in name. They'll just say, oh, yeah, Shepard rescued the world, or Shepard did this, or Shepard did that. And don't flame me, because I don't know the end of Mass Effect 3. I'm actually playing through it right now. So I don't know if Shepard saved the world. I know he saved it in the first two games, and I'm allowed to spoil those two, because those two games are old. But, it's Mass Effect 3 I am still playing through, so I don't know the ending of it. But yeah, they showed off Mass Effect. The engine, it's early in development. I don't know if they're using Frostbite or what they're using for it, but it is early in development. They did show some dev, and that was the thing that was most common about this press conference, is that a lot of it in the corner said early development or prototype or whatever, but it was really early. And same goes with Ubisoft too. A lot of it was just early stuff, and the reason being is because it's, for the most part, the year after the new console release, developers generally have a 2-year gap between their old stuff and their new stuff. So 2014 will be kind of a slow year where you'll get things in the old generation and in the new generation. 2015, the beginning, will be a bit slow, and then 2016 and beyond will be jam-packed with games. And then you'll be like, I don't have enough time to play all these games, and that's a lot. That's where a lot of my backlog comes from. Is, well, not anymore, because I played most of my backlog, but where my old backlog used to come from is that 2 or 3 year gap after the systems were released, like in 2000, anywhere from 2008, 9, and 10. A lot of games were released for the PS3 and the 360, so there's tons of games to play. But now we're slowly not releasing as many games for the PS3, slowly not releasing as many games for the PS4 and Xbox One, just because they're making them. So that's that. No, but besides Mass Effect, they also revealed the fact that they are making a new IP, completely new game. The only thing they mentioned about it, they didn't mention any story, nothing to do with anything really. They just said we have a very new and interesting dynamic weather system and day and night cycle. It did look kind of cool. They showed an image of a tree and like a nice scenic area, and transitioning from day to night and that cycle. Again, they didn't say anything about it. They just said we're making this, just like they did with Mass Effect. So I don't really know what it's about. We'll probably find out. We will definitely find out more about the next Mass Effect at the next E3. And this new IP, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't hear about that until 2 E3s from now, because I'm pretty sure BioWare takes their time on a lot of their titles. So I would not be surprised if we didn't see that game for quite some time. But then after that is when I kind of slowly started to lose interest in the E3 press conference. And then it sort of picked up a little bit at the end. But after that, they showed off some Sims 4 stuff. I've never been a fan of Sims. It was kind of cool to see some of the the character creation stuff. It was pretty neat. I don't really care. I have, I think, Sims 3 through Origin. I think I got it in a bundle of some kind, but I've never been a fan of it. I will include some B-roll right here. You guys could possibly see some of the character creation stuff. I know I watched a video from Lazy Game Review, LGR, Lazy Game Reviews. I don't remember his name, but LGR. He did talk about the Sims 4 customization thing and how it on the surface appears like it's going to be very advanced and more in depth, but then on underneath it's like there's not as actually many options for you. At least it didn't show at that point. And maybe with his new trailer, it showed off the fact that you could do way more things than he thought you could, or than other people thought you could. But right now, I just still don't really care. I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan of Sims. I never have been. Even like in general simulator games, they're really, really hard for me to get into, and not really a fan. And then after that, they did a little bit of sports stuff and then took a break, and then more sports stuff, except for the very end. So after that, they did UFC. It looks good. Graphically, it looks pretty nice. I'm not a big UFC guy. I have watched UFC fights before, and then I get a headache because I'm like, wow, that's a lot of head trauma. I'm going to watch something else. And they did announce, or did show off, the fact that Bruce Lee was going to be in it, and that Bruce Lee kicks a lot of ass, and that is very cool to see that. Yeah, that's just kind of cool to see. An old, now I guess deceased, has been for a while, deceased martial artist in a video game. I just think that's kind of cool that you can do that nowadays. But they did announce that the game will be released next week. Again, because I had no idea that this game was being made, I'm like, wow, that's cool to see the fact that they actually announced a game, and then it's here next week. So if you are interested at all picking up UFC, go ahead and pick it up. It's out next week. I'm assuming next Tuesday, because that's kind of how game releases work. So that's look for that on your store shelves if you are at all interested. The one sports game I am interested in, though, was NHL 15. New graphics. They have a new graphics. I think they said they have a new graphics engine for everything, but the players themselves look spectacular. I thought the players looked amazing. Nice physics on the jerseys. They actually moved around like real cloth. Well, as close as you can get to real cloth. Didn't look exactly right, but it still looked, enough to be like, hey, that looks like a real jersey. Nice collision physics. There was one image where they showed where, like in hockey, sometimes you get a situation where a player is charging towards the goal to score, and they don't stop, and they collide with the goalie. And then another player lands on top of them. It kind of piles up in the goal. And they showed that off, and I thought, oh, that was really cool. Cool collision stuff going on there, Granted, it wasn't the older games, but it looked just very staticky. And what I mean by static is it looked like it did the same thing every time. There was no dynamicness to it. And that's the one thing that I've noticed a lot with this generation now, is that they're including a lot more variable situations into games, meaning if you do get into a situation like that, it's not the same animation that's played over and over again. It's you'll come into this situation where you're running into a goalie, for example. You'll get knocked over and you'll roll around and you'll fall down like a real body. Like if you were a real person, you would fall down like that, and then someone might trip over you and stumble because your stick is in the way or your arm, or they're trying to get around you, and it's more dynamic. Even with the day and night cycles and Forza Horizon 2 and all these new games, a lot more dynamicness, which I am a big fan of. I love that sort of thing, the nice little nuances like that. But again, I put another side note on here. I said, again, sports, so like I don't care. Like, it's sports. Hockey's the one sport that I really can go and just watch if it's on and enjoy every minute of it. But as for another sport, not on the list right now. It's just one sheet of paper this time. I do like baseball besides hockey, but baseball is a little too slow sometimes. But they did show off a new game from Criterion. And if anyone is familiar with what's happened to Criterion recently, pretty much after they released Burnout Paradise, they were kind of broken up. They were destroyed by EA. They were taken down from probably like a 30-man studio to maybe even a 50-man studio to they have like 15 people now, maybe at most. And now they're working on possibly the most ambitious game. Basically, from what they've shown off, because granted, this footage they did show was like, I'm surprised they even did show it. It was very, 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 very early. A lot of incomplete textures, a lot of very blocky textures. The animation was pretty good, but as for the textures themselves, they were still pretty rough. What it seemed to be a first-person, like you control a guy, a first-person action sports game, if that makes any sense. So Criterion are very well known for their racing games. Did they do? Yeah, they did Hot Pursuit after they did Burnout Paradise, I think. So whatever their last game was, they were broken up, and then they're doing this now. So they're mainly known for racing games, and you'll be able to race cars in this game. But it's like I said, it's all in first person. They have ATVs, helicopters, boats, wingsuits. So what I'm thinking is it's going to be some sort of action sports game. I don't know how they're going to do it. It looks interesting. But the fact that, like, when you do, they showed a quick little clip of it, when you do a backflip on an ATV or a motorcycle, the camera doesn't pull out and show your guy doing a backflip and landing and pulling back in. You're with him the whole time as the camera's rotating, 360 degrees around until you land back down. I think it's pretty cool. It has a lot of possibility to it. I don't know what they're going to do with it, Because right now, it just kind of seems to me, until they throw a story into it or throw some sort of background to it, it just kind of seems like a proof of concept to me. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they got a lot of this done. EA shuts them down and then takes all that, research and development and then makes their own thing. I honestly wouldn't be surprised by that. But, I would really like to see something come out of Criterion because they are a very, very good dev, and it would be a shame to see them, go under without actually releasing anything, within anything decent within a long while. And then after that, more sports. They did show off PGA Tour, which, does that mean they dropped the Tiger Woods licensing name? Which I didn't know was a thing. Granted, after Tiger got into that whole situation, it's kind of not surprising with the whole cheating and the whole Tiger Woods scandal. But I didn't know that, if that's the case. If this is a completely different game, then, whatever. But PGA Tour, it's going to be using Frostbite 3 as its main engine of, development and play. It looks really fucking good for a golf game. And they did show that you're going to be able to make your own custom maps. And they did show a crazy example of a map you can make with a giant battleship crashing into the side of your golf course. And you slicing, I guess, would be chipping the ball over the battleship and trying to get into the hole. Crazy things like that. I think more sports games should have that. Just little, wacky things. Kind of like back in the day, NFL Blitz at least I had it for the Nintendo 64. I don't know if it was on any other system, but I had NFL Blitz. And after the play, you could just run and jump on people, run and tackle people at the end of plays. You can't do that in Madden. If Madden did include more things like that, more little wacky things for people that necessarily don't give two shits about sports, that'd be kind of cool to see. I would really like to see something like that in the future implemented in more sports games. And it is cool that EA is doing something a little funny, little wacky for the PGA golf game. And that is being released in 2015, spring of 2015. So what, Q2? Q2 2015. So be on the lookout for that. No, it'll be Q1 or Q2. So be on the lookout for that whenever that is dropped. And of course, they need to show off the Madden. And because it is next gen, it probably is going to be released for all the consoles. Xbox 360, PS3, PS4, Xbox One, and maybe Wii U. Maybe I don't know if they still make Wii U games, if EA does or not. But it most likely will be released for all 5 of the systems. They showed off the fact that they added a new advanced form of defense, where instead of it just being a wide camera and you, as your selected highlighted player, just kind of had to figure out where the ball is and just tackle someone. You you actually get a zoomed in camera of your player, and it's like you're playing a third person football game. Instead of the camera being out showing the whole field, it's down on you, and it's actually kind of neat. They did, of course, upgrade some of the graphics. The fans, the crowd, whatever you want to call it, they still look like trash. They don't look that good. They never have from any Madden game. The players do look pretty good, though. The models, again, with the jerseys look nice. The helmets, everything looks pretty good. And that game is going to be released August 26th, so just right around the corner. 2 months away. So you can go get it if you want. Again, I'm not a big sports fan, so I don't really care about Madden. And another game I didn't really care about. So that's why this press conference was kind of boring for me. It was a lot of stuff that I just didn't really care too much about. They showed off their MOBA called Dawngate. It looks okay. It looks like a cool, interesting MOBA. But the problem is I just have never been able to get into a MOBA. Maybe it's the difficulty curve of just players being complete dicks to new players. Maybe it's the fact that I just don't like the idea of losing experience after every game. I know that's just the way the game's designed, but I just have never been a fan of that idea. I just it's just something about it. It just has never drawn me in. And maybe it's the fact that I have to find that one MOBA that I actually do like, and then I can get into it. But Dawngate, I don't know. It just seemed okay. They did really emphasize the fact that they went to professional MOBA players, whether from LOL or whether from Dota or whichever maybe even Heroes of the Storm or whatever players have been playing, and said, hey, what would you like to see in a MOBA that you could make? And they got a ton of player feedback, and they basically made the MOBA game for MOBA players. So if this game doesn't do well, I don't know. I feel kind of bad for EA. But again, another game I'm not that interested in. But they did follow up with a game I am interested in. And I was actually like, oh, I'm kind of glad to see that. But again, early prototype gameplay, so it's not really too satisfying. It's like, hey, got some stuff for you, but it's not finished yet and probably not going to be what you see when it's released. And that game was Mirror's Edge 2. Now, I've only ever played about half an hour of the original Mirror's Edge, and I was considering doing a Let's Take a Crack at Mirror's Edge, just to give myself an excuse to play it, because I've always heard good things about it, and I've always, everywhere I've looked, anyone ever talked about it, like, yeah, Mirror's Edge is awesome, you would really like it, go give it a try, and I will someday. I just haven't had time. I have too many games, and I have just too much to worry about in life to play every single game, but I will get around to it eventually. But as for Mirror's Edge 2, the early prototype gameplay looks really nice. It very next-gen-ish. The character models are really good. They look similar to the last game, because I'm sure a lot of them are based off the last game prototype, or a lot of the models they were showing off are based off of last gen. But it's looking promising, because the trailer they showed last year was obviously pre-rendered. If they said it was in-game footage, I highly doubt it. It might have been based off of the first game, but I'm looking forward, and I have high hopes for this game. No dates, no nothing. I'm going to shoot in the dark and say 2016 sometime. I don't see this being released in 2015. The footage looked way too early and way too simplistic to be anything other than 2016. Maybe late 2015, but I could be completely wrong. But I think along with the new Criterion game, those games, Mirror's Edge 2 and the new Criterion game won't be out for quite a while. But the next game they showed, which will be out relatively soon, was FIFA 15, another game I don't care about. Football, soccer, call it what you will. I'll probably call it football, just because the rest of the fucking world says football. And I've started to do that, maybe mainly because of all the foreign TV I've started watching. But, watching a lot of these football games like FIFA or whatever, with Pro Evolution Soccer, I think I just got free through the PlayStation, through PlayStation Plus. It makes me want to be a football fan, just because there was one shot during the trailer for this game. There was like fucking 5,000 people just standing there, and that was just one wide angle shot of all these fans, and all of a sudden they're just sitting there, and then they just start jumping and screaming. I'm like, dude, that's fucking awesome. Granted, there are sports do get like that in America, and that's the sort of thing that makes me want to like sports. But then I remember at the same time, I don't like people. I like people. I just don't like being around a lot of people. That's kind of always been my thing. But enough about me. About the game, they again, will like the other sports games, they upgraded the graphics for the new consoles. They upgraded the player graphics substantially. They look really good again. They included new ball physics to dynamically, loving that, dynamically react to any area that is touched by a foot, by a knee, a chest, a head, whatever, what have you. It will react as a regular sphere in a 3D space would in real life. If you kicked a ball at the top, it would stay towards the ground. That sort of deal. And one thing that I did like, again, dynamic change is awesome. Terraforming of the ground. Now, they didn't say this, but it was more so where cleats would pull up as you're running harder and press harder into the ground to get more traction to run further and faster, your cleats, because the spikes on the cleats will pull up the turf as you run, and it stays terraformed. I know it's not a good word for it, but it stays changed on the ground, and it doesn't actually just disappear after a while, or where slide tackles are done, or anything like that. It stays changed, which is awesome. I just think that's really, really cool, and I am really looking forward to more games taking that approach, with any kind of thing, like walking on the beach. See footprints? They're your footprints. They stay. Hopefully, I don't know. Granted, Far Cry isn't set in the sandy beaches anymore, but, a game like Far Cry where you can, if you're trying to... okay, here's an example. The Witcher 3. Say if you're on a coastline and you're trying to track an animal, you could look at the ground and be like, he was coming through here, or it was coming through here. There's the footprints. Let me follow them. And they just because they stay there, because at one time he walked across it, or when high tide comes up, they wash away, and then low tide goes back. Dynamic changes like that are the way games should go, in my opinion. Now, a lot of them already have it. A lot of them already do, but a lot of them are fake-ish dynamic game aspects, and that's one thing that EA kind of mentioned, even Microsoft to a certain extent in a lot of their games that I'm looking forward to have, which makes me happy. And then they ended it with Battlefield Hardline. Now, I don't know how to feel about this game. Don't get me wrong, it looks very cool and very interesting, but I get the feeling so much of Payday. It's like a really big Payday. And now the demo they showed off during E3 here, during the press conference, was a 32 player demo online, where it was 16 cops versus 16, let's just call them robbers, criminals, whatever, where they pitted them against each other in a Payday style game. And it was interesting to see, because the way it began with these robbers going to an armored truck, smacking the armored truck over, tipping it over somehow, and then blasting the doors off the back and taking the money. And then the rest of the game was them trying to get away. And it was amazing. It was so cool. Now, when it comes to stealing games, like criminal games like that, Payday, I think, does it better because it's more concentrated, it's more direct, it's more Payday, and they do it very, very well. But Battlefield, the way they do it, they give you the whole map, and they say, get away from the cops. Get out of here through your helicopter and go away. But it doesn't go like that in the demo. The way the demo plays out, they get the money, the robbers get the money, they drive away, the cops are all chasing them, everything's exploding, things are blowing up, and then when the one thing that really made me really like piqued my interest, I was like, this, the map's really big, that's cool, it's whatever. It's when a crane fell, a big construction crane, that was on the side of a building or whatever, building the building, fell, broke a hole into the side of a building, like just ripped half the building down, fell against another building, ripped half that building down, and then once the dust was settled and fire started, well, not fire, but there was a firefight or exchange of gunfire that started happening again, the point of view that we were seeing ran up the crane where it fell just in front of him into the building that just had its face ripped open, and then proceeded to try and escape again. I don't know if it's the Levolution that they had from Battlefield 4, if it's that engine, like if you could possibly somehow bring down the whole building to create a huge diversion, or if it's just destructible environments like we saw in Bad Company 1 and 2. I don't know if it's going to be more like that, where you can shoot a hole through the wall of a building and go in there and try and get away somehow like that. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I'm very, very interested to see what it looks like. And they also did announce the Battlefield Hardline beta. If you can still go sign up for it. I signed up for myself. Right now you have the choice between PS4 and PC, and it did say other, and I don't know if that means Xbox One, or if that's just 360 or PS3 or how, what it is. But I did sign up for the beta. I signed up for PC. So hopefully I get in there, and if I do, I will definitely put some content up of it. Even though I said I don't, in my Microsoft press conference video, I'm not a big fan of multiplayer games, but Battlefield and Halo I really have been able to get into recently. So yeah, that is that. That was the end of the press conference. It wasn't too long. Like I said, I found a lot of it quite boring just because I didn't care for the sports games. And like I said, maybe at the end of the day I will give a score to all of these, but like I said, it'll most likely be tomorrow after Nintendo has released their Nintendo Direct, and I've watched that. Then I will give a score to the press conferences, but EA's not looking too good right now. Besides, showing off besides showing off the fact that they have Star Wars Battlefront, Dragon Age Inquisition, a new Mass Effect in the works. The Criterion games seem interesting, and Mirror's Edge 2, and I guess Battlefield. I mean, just those few games, granted, may have been half the thing, half the conference, but the other half I was bored to death because I just didn't care. I just sat here with my hand on my face like, when's this gonna be over? Can I stop? It was okay, but it wasn't what I thought it could have been. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching. I've been Hello Japan. This was my thoughts and overview of the EA 2014 press conference or media briefing or whatever you prefer. Anyway, I hope to see you guys in the next one. It will be Ubisoft, which I will do after I watch the Sony press conference, which I'm looking very, very much so forward to. And I'm hoping I'll be able to get these videos up tonight. They shouldn't be too long. Still haven't decided if I should do still images or if I should actually find the trailers, because if I find the trailers, they will take a little bit longer to get up, but they still shouldn't be too terribly difficult to do. But anyway, yeah, enough of that. I will see you guys in the next one. Hope to see you there, and let me know what you thought of this press conference down below. And if you're looking forward to any of these games whatsoever, I'll see you guys later. See ya!